Clinical data from the North American Menopause Society shows that over 60% of women above 50 remain sexually active, yet nearly half suffer from vaginal dryness, painful intercourse, or loss of desire after menopause. These are not signs that your sex life is over. They are medical conditions. With proper treatment and guidance, intimacy after 50 can still be healthy, comfortable, and deeply fulfilling. I'm Dr. Eliza Hart, a women's health specialist with over 15 years of experience helping women navigate menopause hormones and intimate wellness. My mission is to give you accurate science-based guidance so you can feel confident, healthy, and vibrant at every stage of life. For too long, society has told women to accept that passion fades after 50. But modern research proves the opposite. Intimacy not only continues, it often becomes deeper, more adventurous, and more fulfilling. The key is understanding how your body changes and what science reveals about pleasure in midlife and beyond. In this video, I'll walk you through the top 10 sexual activities Americans over 50 are truly engaging in with real medical insights about what each one means for your body and relationships. And I promise number 9 and 10 will surprise you. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos on women's health. If you find this topic valuable, type 1 in the comments. 1. Vaginal intercourse. Still the foundation. When we begin looking at sexual activities after 50, it is important to start with what remains the most common, and for many couples, the most meaningful form of intimacy, vaginal intercourse. Surveys consistently show that more than 90% of adults report engaging in intercourse at some point in their lives, and even beyond menopause, it continues to play a central role. What changes, however, is how the body responds. After estrogen levels fall, tissues become thinner, lubrication decreases, and discomfort can appear where there was once ease and pleasure. For many women, this can feel discouraging, as if their bodies are betraying them at the very moment they seek closeness. In my years of practice, I have seen women in their 60s and 70s rediscover comfort through simple but effective medical support. Vaginal moisturizers, lubricants, and in some cases, low-dose vaginal estrogen have been proven to restore elasticity and reduce pain, allowing women to feel at home in their bodies again. Studies published by the North American Menopause Society confirm that these treatments can significantly improve both physical comfort and sexual satisfaction. What matters most is the recognition that intercourse after 50 is not only possible but can be deeply fulfilling when managed with care. Rather than seeing changes as a signal to stop, it helps to see them as an invitation to approach intimacy differently, with more patience, communication, and medical guidance when needed. And as we continue, you'll see that intimacy after midlife takes many forms, some familiar and some surprisingly new. 2. Masturbation. Your body, your choice. Beyond partnered intimacy, many women over 50 quietly turn to self-pleasure, though they rarely speak of it openly. Surveys suggest that more than 80% of adults have masturbated at some point in life, and a significant number continue well into their 60s, 70s, and beyond. For many women, however, social stigma and outdated beliefs still make the subject feel uncomfortable, as if self-pleasure were somehow inappropriate after midlife. In truth, the medical evidence tells a very different story. From a biological perspective, masturbation plays an important role in maintaining pelvic blood flow, preserving vaginal elasticity, and keeping sexual reflexes active even when one is not sexually engaged with a partner. The Journal of Sex Research has reported that women who engage in regular self-stimulation often experience less stress, better sleep quality, and improved mood due to the release of endorphins. For women navigating menopause or postmenopause, where hormonal changes can dampen desire and create physical discomfort, masturbation becomes both a tool of self-care and a pathway to reconnect with one's body. Over the years, I've spoken with many women who admitted that rediscovering their own touch brought them a sense of vitality they thought was lost. It reminded them that pleasure does not require permission, and that their identity as women did not vanish with age. There is no single right frequency. Some may do it weekly, others monthly, and some not at all. What matters is that it remains a choice guided by comfort, not by guilt or silence. And when we broaden our view, intimacy extends far beyond what happens alone, opening the door to other forms of shared closeness. 3. Oral sex. Pleasure beyond intercourse. As women move through midlife, many discover that intimacy can thrive in ways not limited to intercourse. Oral sex, for example, is far more common than many expect, with research indicating that over 80% of adults have given or received it at some point. Among couples over 50, it often becomes an important way of sustaining closeness, particularly when hormonal changes or thinning tissues make vaginal penetration uncomfortable. For many, the reassurance that desire can still be expressed without pressure on the body is both liberating and deeply affirming. From a medical standpoint, oral sex carries unique considerations. While it eliminates some of the challenges associated with vaginal intercourse, it does not remove the risk of sexually transmitted infections. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, infections such as HPV, herpes, chlamydia, and gonorrhea can still be transmitted through oral contact. This is why I always emphasize honest communication, routine screening, and appropriate protection, even for couples in long-term relationships. Such conversations may feel awkward at first, yet they reflect respect and mutual care rather than distrust. Beyond safety, the practice itself often strengthens emotional connection. Many of my patients have shared that oral intimacy made them feel seen, again desired, not just for youth, but for the uniqueness of their bodies. It requires vulnerability and trust qualities that often deepen with age. Oral sex approached with openness and patience can remind couples that pleasure is not bound to one act or one stage of life. It is a continuing journey, and as we look ahead, other forms of intimacy show just how creative and adaptive that journey can become. 4. Watching erotic videos, a double-edged sword. Another area that often surprises women over 50 is the quiet reality of erotic media. Surveys reveal that more than 80% of men and nearly 60% of women admit to watching erotic videos at some point. For many, curiosity does not vanish with age, it simply takes new forms. A short clip or film can spark desire, awaken imagination, or even open the door to conversations about fantasies that feel too delicate to mention directly. From a health perspective, moderate use of erotic media is not harmful, and some studies suggest it can increase arousal and sexual satisfaction when viewed responsibly. A 2021 analysis in the Archives of Sexual Behavior found that women who engaged with erotic content in moderation reported higher overall sexual well-being. However, overuse can lead to unrealistic expectations or performance anxiety, particularly if individuals begin comparing themselves or their relationships to scripted scenes. This is why balance is essential. For couples, watching together can be a playful way to rekindle connection. For individuals, it can be a private reminder of their own sexuality. What matters most is honesty with yourself and with your partner about how it makes you feel. If you found this discussion meaningful so far, let me know by typing 1 in the comments. Your feedback guides me in creating more content that truly serves you. Intimacy, of course, is not only about what we see on a screen. In fact, the next activity reminds us how something as simple as fabric can reshape confidence and desire in unexpected ways. 5. Wearing lingerie. Confidence in fabric. While lingerie is often marketed toward younger women, research shows that nearly 75% of women of all ages have worn lingerie or sensual underwear for a partner. For women over 50, this choice is rarely about pleasing someone else. It is about reclaiming self-confidence and remembering that sexuality belongs to them, not just to youth. When a woman slips into something elegant, even privately, the psychological shift can be profound. Medical and psychological studies highlight that confidence is closely tied to sexual satisfaction. A 2018 study in the Body Image Journal found that women who wore lingerie reported significantly higher self-perceived attractiveness and greater comfort initiating intimacy. The reason is simple: clothing that enhances body image stimulates dopamine and endorphin release, improving mood and arousal. This effect is less about fabric itself and more about how it helps a woman reconnect with her sense of desirability. In my own consultations, I have met women in their 60s who admitted feeling nervous when trying lingerie again after many years. Yet almost universally, they described a surprising boost in connection not only with their partners, but also with themselves. The act of showing effort, of stepping into intimacy with intention, often reignited excitement they thought had faded. Confidence is contagious. When you feel good in your skin, your partner notices instantly. And as we move forward, intimacy shifts from fabric to technology, revealing how modern expressions of desire can be both playful and risky. 6. Sending or receiving intimate photos. Digital intimacy. In the digital age, intimacy is no longer confined to physical presence. Surveys show that about 65% of men and over half of women admit to sending or receiving nude or semi-nude images at some point. While often thought of as a habit of younger generations, many couples over 50 are exploring this as a way to feel desired, playful, and connected, despite long marriages or physical distance. The psychological impact can be powerful. Women who send intimate photos to trusted partners often report a renewed sense of confidence and vitality. For some, it feels like rediscovering the spark of early courtship, reminding them that passion does not vanish with age. From a biological standpoint, the excitement triggers the release of dopamine and oxytocin, hormones linked with bonding and pleasure. However, this practice is not without its risks. Once an image is shared, control is lost. Phones can be hacked, messages forwarded, and relationships can change over time. This is why I always advise caution. Avoid including identifiable features, such as your face, use secure apps when possible, and share only with someone you trust completely. Approached carefully, digital intimacy can strengthen relationships rather than weaken them. As with any form of closeness, communication is essential. Discuss boundaries, openly agree on what feels comfortable, and remember that consent applies in digital spaces just as much as in physical ones. Moving ahead, we will see that not all intimacy relies on technology. Sometimes the most powerful stimulation begins in the imagination. 7. Reading erotic stories, fueling imagination. Not all intimacy requires physical touch or visual media. For many women, over 50 erotic stories or romantic literature offer a powerful private way to explore desire. Surveys indicate that more than half of adults have read erotic material, and women are more likely than men to prefer words over images. This is because arousal often begins in the brain, where imagination can create scenarios more personal and emotionally resonant than anything on a screen. From a medical and psychological standpoint, this makes sense. The brain is our largest sexual organ, and reading activates the limbic system, which governs emotion and desire. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Women and Aging found that midlife women who regularly engaged with erotic or romantic literature reported higher sexual satisfaction and greater openness in discussing fantasies with partners. Importantly, these benefits appeared even when women were not sexually active, underscoring the role of mental stimulation in maintaining sexual health. In clinical practice, I often remind patients that there is nothing abnormal about enjoying written intimacy. Unlike visual pornography, which can sometimes feel artificial or overwhelming, stories allow each reader to set the pace. Imagine details that resonate and stop whenever they choose. For some, it becomes a safe and empowering way to reconnect with their own bodies without pressure. Intimacy through reading also offers couples an opportunity. Sharing passages or discussing favorite themes can open gentle conversations about desires that may have remained unspoken for years. And as we continue, you will see that imagination is only one path others find excitement in the thrill of breaking routine. 8. Sex in public. The thrill of risk. Although often considered daring or even reckless, sex in public is more common than many realize. National surveys suggest that more than 40% of adults have engaged in some form of sexual activity outside the privacy of their homes. For couples over 50, the appeal is rarely about breaking the law. It is about recapturing excitement variety and the rush of adrenaline that can fade after decades of routine. From a biological perspective, novelty stimulates the brain's reward system. Acts perceived as risky elevate adrenaline and dopamine, both of which heighten arousal and intensify memory. Even small gestures such as passionate kissing in a secluded park or holding each other closely in a quiet corner can produce feelings of aliveness and spontaneity. In clinical discussions, many women have admitted that these experiences made them feel young again, not because of age reversal, but because of the emotional spark of stepping outside the ordinary. Yet the risks are real. Public sexual activity may result in legal consequences, embarrassment, or safety concerns. This is why I encourage couples to channel the same desire for novelty into safer alternatives, exploring different rooms at home, scheduling intimacy at unusual times, or planning a weekend getaway where privacy allows for greater freedom. These changes maintain the thrill while minimizing danger. Intimacy after 50 is not about reckless abandon. It is about intentional variety that keeps passion alive. And as we move forward, we'll explore an activity that often provokes hesitation, curiosity, and sometimes even surprise: anal sex. 9. Anal sex, the first shock. When the topic of anal sex arises, many women over 50 react with surprise or discomfort. Yet national surveys indicate that nearly half of men and about 1/3 of women have tried it at least once. For some couples, curiosity plays a role. For others, it represents an attempt to diversify intimacy after years of familiar routines. Regardless of motivation, this practice requires careful preparation and informed choices. Biologically, the anal canal does not self-lubricate, making friction more likely to cause pain or injury. This is why the use of high-quality lubricants, preferably silicone-based or water-based, and gradual progression are essential. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also highlight that anal intercourse carries a higher risk of sexually transmitted infections, including HIV and HPV, compared to vaginal sex. Condoms, therefore, remain critical, even in long-term relationships. From a clinical perspective, some women have reported discovering unexpected pleasure due to the rich network of nerve endings in the anal region. For men, prostate stimulation may contribute to unique sensations. Still, it is important to stress that anal play is not for everyone. Consent communication and patience form the foundation of any positive experience. If hesitation outweighs curiosity, choosing not to participate is equally valid. In conversations with my patients, I remind them that intimacy at any age is not about replicating what others do, but about safely exploring what feels right. And as we turn to the final activity, you may be surprised again. Sometimes the simplest gestures can dramatically reshape how intimacy feels. 10. Spanking, the second shock. When people first hear the word spanking in a sexual context, many imagine something childish or even inappropriate. Yet research suggests that nearly 30% of adults have experimented with it at least once. For women over 50, this statistic is often surprising, but it reflects a broader truth. Intimacy is not limited by age, and sometimes playful exploration can reignite passion in unexpected ways. From a neurological perspective, mild pain and pleasure travel along similar pathways in the nervous system. A light swat can release endorphins, increase blood flow, and intensify arousal. The Journal of Positive Sexuality has documented that couples who engaged in light BDSM practices, including spanking, often reported stronger emotional bonds and higher satisfaction. Importantly, this is not about violence or humiliation. Rather, it is about trust communication and shared curiosity. In my practice, I have spoken with women who admitted that trying spanking later in life surprised them, not because of the act itself, but because of the laughter, playfulness, and renewed energy it brought into long-term relationships. For some, it shattered the belief that intimacy after 50 must be predictable or restrained. As with all intimate activities, clear consent and boundaries are essential. Discuss comfort levels with your partner, establish safe words if necessary, and remember that no one should feel pressured. What matters most is that intimacy continues to evolve, offering joy and connection. With this, we conclude the top 10 activities, and it is time to reflect on what they truly mean for you. Understanding the variety of sexual activities Americans explore is valuable, but the real question is how to apply this knowledge to your own life. For women over 50, the key is not to rush into everything at once, but to make gradual, intentional adjustments that feel safe and manageable. If vaginal intercourse has become uncomfortable, begin with simple steps such as using a high-quality water-based lubricant or incorporating vaginal moisturizers regularly. If discomfort persists, consult your physician about low-dose vaginal estrogen, which has been shown to restore elasticity and reduce pain. For those curious about self-pleasure, start by setting aside private, relaxed time without guilt. There is no frequency you must meet. What matters is that it feels natural and satisfying to you. If watching erotic material or reading intimate stories sparks interest, do so moderately. And if you share the experience with a partner, discuss boundaries openly. When it comes to riskier activities such as sending photos or experimenting with anal play, caution is essential. Protect your privacy, use appropriate protection, and never move forward without clear consent. Above all, remember that intimacy after 50 thrives when approached with patience, honesty, and openness. Small changes like trying lingerie, altering the setting, or simply talking about desires can have a profound impact over time. Choose one new practice that resonates with you, introduce it gently, and notice how it enriches your confidence and connection. Step by step, these choices can help you reclaim vitality in both body and spirit. After reviewing these 10 activities, one truth stands out clearly. Intimacy does not fade with age, it evolves. From intercourse and self-pleasure to lingerie, erotic media, or even more adventurous practices, what matters most is not the specific activity, but the freedom to choose what feels right for you. Medical research confirms that desire remains alive well into the 60s and 70s, provided women address hormonal changes, dryness, and emotional barriers with openness and support. My advice is simple. Do not measure yourself against what others are doing. Instead, focus on understanding your own body and your own needs. If intercourse is painful, seek medical guidance rather than abandoning it altogether. If you are curious about new experiences, approach them gradually with patience and communication. If certain practices feel uncomfortable, remember that saying no is just as valid as saying yes. Intimacy after midlife is not about ticking boxes. It is about sustaining health, joy, and connection. Above all, give yourself permission to keep exploring. Pleasure is not reserved for the young. It belongs to anyone willing to nurture it. As a physician, I have seen women rediscover confidence and vitality long after they believed it was gone. That possibility exists for you as well. Thank you for joining me in this conversation on women's health and intimacy. If you found value here, please subscribe, share this video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps this community grow.